In this episode, once again, we speak to the amazing Elliot Kallen. Elliot is the founder and president of Prosperity Financial Group, an industry authority in finance and renowned contrarian investor. With over almost 10 figures, almost $1 billion in assets under management, his firm has redefined financial success for countless professionals, entrepreneurs, and retirees by capitalizing on opportunities during economic downturns. Prosperity Financial Group makes smart investments when masses are fearful and running for the hills. The firm's trademark, if it's money, it's personal, reflects Elliot's commitment to personalized financial solutions unique to each individual. He's also the best-selling author of the book Driven. And in today's episode, we're speaking to Elliot about the 3 phases of entrepreneurship. Let's find out. Oh, and remember, if you want to upgrade your money mindset, then click on the link www.millionairefoundation.com and watch my free training. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And today I'm so excited. Once again, we have the wonderful, the charming Elliot Kallen. Welcome, Elliot.
Great to be here, Gull. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back, Elliot. Elliot, we had such a fantastic conversation on Friday feature. It was amazing. So we had to have you back today. So Elliot, everyone's heard your intro and they know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
So I own 2 money management firms, just under $1 billion in total assets here in Northern California, and I'm president of a nonprofit charity as well.
Wonderful. And today, Andy, we're talking about entrepreneurship. Specifically, we're talking about the 3 phases of entrepreneurship. So anybody who's listened to a Friday episode will know that you actually started off with literally nothing. Your father was an immigrant, your parents were an immigrant, and you're first generation American in America. So you went from being, just a normal boy and just a normal man, being a quarterback in school, and working your way through multiple companies to now, running multiple businesses just shy of 10 figures. Talk us through, in your opinion, what are the 3 pillars or 3 phases? So what's the first phase of entrepreneurship?
It's great. And my dad was actually U.S. and my mom was Europe.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't want to negate my dad's upbringing because it's, Newark, New Jersey, which is in the middle of a depression and has all types of problems as a city.
Okay.
There. So there are 3 pillars, Gull, of entrepreneurship as I view them.
Okay.
The first one, phase 1, is really the startup phase of an entrepreneur, getting the vision, starting it up, kind of digging with shovels. It's clawing at success. It's trying to develop something out of nothing. It's exciting. You can't sleep at night. You can't wait to go to work. And you're starting to build something, cash flow. Sometimes you're working by the seat of your pants. And you're telling everybody what you're doing, and you're trying to sell some truth in advance because you really don't have much to talk about yet, but you're doing it, and that's exciting. Phase 2 is now you've got something.
Okay.
And now I want to scale it.
So if you slow you down, let's talk about the phase 1. So phase 1 is, would you say phase 1 is where most entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs fail because they hit some success? They've got an idea and they are putting into action or putting into implementation, but they get stuck. They get stuck with cash flow, or something goes wrong, or the partnership fails, or something else happens, or they have a burnout. Would you say that's the phase that's the most dangerous?
It is, and you were 100% right. It's like you said, it's cash flow, burnout. I'm exhausted. My marriage is starting to fail. All these things happen primarily in phase 1. Most of those people that started are in their 30s and 40s, maybe early 50s. So they're young, they've got energy. The kids can be pretty young, but working around the clock. There are people that start in their 50s and 60s too, but for the most part, these are younger people, and it's hard to make that work. It's where you quit very easily.
Yeah.
Your own metal is being tested every day. When am I going to even meet payroll this week?
Yeah.
How do I do this? And my office manager just quit. My office manager just sued me. Things like that. And how do I deal with that? And I've got to hire lawyers. Where's that money going to come from? And now I need a new accountant. You get a letter from the IRS. They haven't paid your taxes in the last 2 years because you haven't had enough cash flow to pay your taxes.
I think we discussed something on Friday Feature, which I think is worth mentioning here. And if you don't have a supportive spouse in this phase, you're going to really struggle even further, because you need to have at least a harmonious, some kind of harmonious, home life in order to succeed. I mean, I've, all the people that, the amazing people whose stories of you who've achieved amazing stuff, like Richard Branson, they had that supportive partner. And I think that makes a difference. Would you say that could make or break an individual depending on what kind of partner you have at the time?
So if you've got it, the answer is, the short answer is yes. And a little longer answer is that when you come home at night, if you don't have a supportive partner and you've been on the front lines fighting all day, then you are back on the front line fighting all night.
Yeah.
And nobody can sustain that. There's no marriage that can sustain that. I'm divorced. I've had 2 long-term marriages now. I have a second long-term marriage. But I'm divorced because too many things were constantly getting in the way of our marriage. It wasn't just my business. It was other things besides that. But you just can't fight those fronts. You don't have the energy. It's exhausting to do that. So you need a spouse to say, in a lot of ways, and it's not just male or female, it's the spouse. And you know something? These things happen. I want to take you out for dinner and let's go get a pizza. Whatever you're going to do, I want you to know that I believe in you. And when you been beaten up all day from banks and manufacturing or distribution or personnel, and you have a spouse that says, come on, I believe in you. Let's go get some pizza. Don't even talk about your dad with me. I don't want you to get upset. Let's just have a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey and some pizza. And tomorrow's a new day for you. And I believe in you. It's like somebody put a lightning bolt into your stomach and said, you know something? Tomorrow is a new day and I'm going to conquer the mountain tomorrow. You need that.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm just thinking, I mean, I'm not married and I don't have a partner. I think my own business only took off when I came out of a toxic relationship. But I was thinking because I do long hours now, and one of my businesses is quite far away from home. So one of my businesses, because I choose not to stay overnight, just yesterday I did 4.5 hours drive in the morning. It was normally 3-hour drive. It became 4.5 hours because of the traffic, because there was an accident, and then 3 hours drive back. And so I did 7.5 hours on the road, going and coming back. When I was there, it was constantly mentally, doing the work and stuff and dealing with personality and other things. And when I come home, yes, I don't have a spouse, but I have children who are really loving. So I come home and they can see mom's really exhausted. They feed themselves and whatever. And actually, my daughter's the one that makes me dinner for when I come home. Just normally I make it, but when on those sort of days she does. And just them coming, give me a hug and saying, Mom, I'm really proud of you. That's it. That uplifts me, that because we've got such a harmonious environment and my kids are so proud of me. They can see how hard I work and what I'm doing it for them. That I think is so much more that the kids don't know. I don't talk to them about the hardships or all the ups and downs in the business, and they don't need to have the burden. I can deal with it myself. But them individually, they come and hug me, and every now and again they'll say, especially when I'm really, really tired, I look really sad. They're like, oh, you sad? I'm like, no, I'm just tired, bitter. And that hug I get, that love I get, I tell you, I'm still tired. But it fills me up with the drive that, okay, next day, like today was a full day of work, one after another, I had all these appointments. I can get through it because I've got that support network, even if it's not for my spouse, it's for my family, but it's for my kids. And that drive to do better the next day for my kids comes through. Does it make sense? And it does.
I want you to think for a second, because you're doing something so right from a life lesson standpoint, Gull, that you're teaching right now.
Yeah.
There's an Old Testament proverb, and not to get religious or anything like that.
Yeah.
It says, teach your children how you would like them to teach theirs. And so when you're coming home at night and you're an entrepreneur and you're fighting through it, and they can see it, even if it's not consciously, they can see it. It's being stored in their memory bank. They're going to look back on that. And don't be surprised if your children, when they face trials and tribulations of their own, whether they're corporate or whether they decide to be entrepreneurs on their own, they're going to look back on you and at your life and say, my mom persevered through this.
Yeah.
I can grow from her strength.
100%. And I completely hear you, because when I get, the reason why I know I'm very strong, but I have something to look back on, because my mother in 80s did something which is unheard of. She left my dad when he remarried and chose not to be a subordinate, and chose not to be a second fiddle to the second wife. And she went through so much hardship. So she was different. She wasn't an entrepreneur. She was blessed. She did manual work. But I see whenever I get down or whenever things get tough for me, I look upon her life and I take heed from that she went through so much turmoil and she had to endure so much, and in a foreign country, because she was first generation. I mean, I'm first generation. She was a foreigner, so she came to this country who didn't hardly know the language either, and she persevered and made a life for herself. What did the best of the ability, the best she could. If she could do it, and she didn't have all the opportunities or the academics behind her like I do, hell, I can do much better, and I can carry on going. So I learned from her, and I'm sure my children will come back and learn from my life lessons at some point, hopefully. That's the hope anyway.
So 100%, your kids are learning that 100%. They can't really act on it right now. They're a little bit young, but they will at some point, as you gain strength from your mother and I gain strength from my parents in different ways. Those are embedded in you, and they come out at certain points. My mother was an Auschwitz survivor.
Wow.
World War II in Europe. And, when I think about what they went through, I can gain strength just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I can go through that and how I would survive. But knowing that she did gives me the strength to know that I can survive anything and grow from it and do better.
100%. So that's phase number 1. Let's move on to phase number 2. So what's phase number 2?
Phase number 2 is now you have something. You have something that's beginning to look like it has sustainability. It has legs on it. And now you want to scale it and grow it. Now you want to grow it maybe to a $5 million entity or a sole practitioner or a $100 million entity, or pounds if you want to go 100 million pound entity. You want it to grow, which means you're going to now bring it to new phases of life, which is personnel and banking. And there are big time things and challenges you have to go through in a growth phase. And now your kids are probably a little bit older, and you're starting on a personal level to say, wow, my business is taking a lot of my time. It requires these things. I've got some good people around me, because you're making sure that you have good people around you. And I've got to put them through college, and I've got to stay married, and I've got a lot of things that I'm juggling, and my juggling is a challenge of how do I keep it in balance every single day. And that's really phase 2, is I'm now going to grow something that has sustainability to it and is going to be around for maybe 10, 15, 20 years or longer if I want it to be like that. And you're going to have to get better at what you do, because you're no longer a startup entrepreneur. You're now a corporate citizen, a corporate manager, building something that you need to put people in place to help you grow and systems in place to help you maintain and grow.
I think this is all. I want to interject here, because I've been in all different phases. You need to recognize the challenges of every phase. Every phase has different challenges, different solutions, and it requires a different aspect of you. And you need to grow into the next level. You don't just go from one to the other. You have to grow in from phase 1 to phase 2. And I think if I look in my life, it sometimes looks like startups are easier, because the previous life always looks easier, I think, because the problems are smaller. As you grow, your problems grow. It's not the fact that problems become smaller, it's just your ability to deal with those problems becomes better. You get better at dealing with them. Wouldn't you agree that that's a mindset that you need to go in there, because you are constantly going to have to grow, and the bigger the company, the more problems you're going to have to solve in order for you to grow further.
And the more experience you'll have, you're correct. The more experience you'll have, and you'll grow from experience as well. So you'll learn that, because you're my employee and you have an issue with me, you'll learn, wait, I dealt with this 3 or 4 times in the past. Let me put some of these policies in place. Let me talk to you about it. Maybe we can work our way through that before it gets out of control. Or let me give you the tools now, because I've given them in the past, that to help you do your job better. And so you become a cheerleader for your organization. That's a big thing now, because your organization is looking to you as a leader of the organization, not just the entrepreneur, but the leader, and you want to do a better job, and you want to be the role model. That's why you can't be an absentee owner, because you're never going to be a role model.
I think something else that you need to recognize is that when you're starting out, you're responsible for putting food on your table. But by the time you're in phase 2, you are turning phase 2, you have a number of other families dependent upon you to run a company in order to put food on their table. That responsibility is the biggest shift in my mind to have. because now it's not just your mortgage or your livelihood that's at stake, but everybody else who works for you too. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree, 100% agree. You're so right on. This is why you got a great audience, because you're giving out these golden nuggets of information, and you're also saying it's okay to have all these frailties, because that's what makes you human.
Yeah.
And so, but if you don't want to succumb to your own foibles and frailties, you want to grow from them, and that is one of the reasons why entrepreneurs succeed or don't succeed, is they grow from their own foibles, their own mistakes. And of course, like I've said to you before, entrepreneurs don't really make mistakes. They just have painful learning lessons.
Yeah, I think if I look at my own experience, one of the things that and this is a compliment I received today, because I've gone in for a new venture, and there's certain things which I'm not understanding. So instead of being in my ego and think, well, I've done so much, I can learn and I can work things out, I put my hand up saying, well, you know what, this is a new area. I have no clue. I've tried for a month and I'm not able to get through the KPIs. I'm not able to make head or tails. Let me bring in a third party. Let me bring someone who can come in looking from a party's point of view, get me an idea of what else am I missing? Why am I, where are we neglecting here? And when I was speaking to this individual, and he's a CFO and heads of business, he congratulated me. He goes, oh, well done for recognizing that you don't know everything. I'm like, I don't. It would be completely foolish of me to believe that I'm the expert at running a business because I have multiple businesses. Every business is a different kettle of fish, and it requires different skill set. So I don't. And I'm trying to learn. I will become an expert in it, because that's the intention in another few years' time. But at the moment, I don't. So actually recognizing where you are not, where something's not in your area of expertise, or it's not something that you can do well at, asking for help and paying for it. I mean, I'm not going to get this for free. I'm going to get paid. It's going to be something I pay for, and bringing this expert to give me their insight to say, okay, where am I missing? What needs to improve that I'm failing to see at the moment? So how can we drive the right KPIs to move forward in the way that I want to? Would you say that having the ability to recognize your strong points, your weaknesses, in order to get help to compensate where you have your weaknesses?
Oh, you're so spot on that. You know what's funny? When I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, one of the business professor said, you always want to improve your weaknesses and capitalize on your strengths. And actually, he's 100% wrong on that.
Yeah.
You want to work on really focusing your strengths of what you do really well.
Yeah.
And you and hire out people.
Yes, 100%.
That can work on your weaknesses, because if you work on your weaknesses, then the weaknesses get stronger, but they remain weaknesses.
Yeah.
Strengths are where you're stronger. So entrepreneurs are great decision makers, and they're thinkers, and they're creative people, and they're willing to accept the fact that they don't know everything all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what they do well. So that's why hey, I'm not the best with doing the books in the office. So if you have me do it, it's going to take 5 times as long to do it. I have a bookkeeping, I have an accounting firm, I have a CFO. That's how you improve that. I don't always see all the decisions that need to be made. Let me hire some people that will have real skill sets that can see things that I don't see. AI is all around us. I'm not an AI guy, but I have people work for me that are AI people now. So we have to use that. That's a great trait of an entrepreneur, is admitting where you're strong and recognizing where you need help and doing something about it.
100%. 100%. Okay, so that's phase number 2. Now move on to the third phase. So what's the third phase?
Third phase now is, what now? I've got something that's really great. What's going to be my exit strategy? Kids might be a little bit older. I don't have that issue of kids in a home anymore. Maybe I have grandchildren, but that's not really the issue. The issue is, what's the next phase? I'm in my 60s, late 50s, late 60s, maybe it's 70. What do I want to do here? And so some people will talk to me, well, I want to give the business to my child, son or daughter, if you have that kind of person in your family, or I want to sell it, or it has no value. I'm just going to work until I die. That's what phase 3 is all about, is what's the next step for your business? What's your legacy? What's your legacy for your children? Do your children really want your business, or they don't want the money from your business?
So I think this is a great point. And I would go, so I agree this would be the third phase, but I think if you start with the end in mind, and I think after being an entrepreneur for a number of years, this is something that you have to do. You have to have the end in mind. Now, there are a number of businesses that I have, and I don't see my children work any of the businesses I have. There are a couple that I see them, taking over, and which will be the side hustle for them, which will be the property business, but they will definitely carry on with that. But when it comes to one of my current, so I've gone into manufacturing. My manufacturing business I have in mind, but I have an exit strategy for that. The next, based on where I want to exit, between 5 to 10 years, and depending on how far I want to grow. I already have a mind. If I don't exit in 5 years, I will exit in 10 years. And I have a number in mind that I want to exit with. So I'm already working from an end point in mind. And that's my exit strategy, because that's going to create the generational wealth, not just for my kids, but my grandchildren. So then I will probably invest that in somehow, so that in a trust fund, whatever, so that it's protected from, other things. Being a lawyer, I always think ahead. But I think you need to have an exit strategy. But then, whereas I'm a lawyer, and my daughter wants to go into law, and my son has indicated his interest in law too. So therefore, I'm also thinking about, buying a law firm in the coming years, to be set up a branch of work, which will be for them. So they want to go into law, so that will be for them. So if you have an end in mind, what you want to do, so my law firms and my property will be handed over to the kids. My other businesses, I will exit and take the money and put it into investments for them. That's the way I'm thinking. But I always have an end in mind before I get into something. Coaching is something I'll do to the day I die. I don't think I can pass it on unless somebody wants to become a coach with me. I don't know, who knows if they want to, but that's a business that I do because I'm passionate about it, not because it's for money. It's just because I love what I do.
Well, you're on track. Most entrepreneurs, it's very hard to see what your business is going to look like in phase 2, much less phase 3, and what's my end game. But they can begin to see that in 2.
Yeah,
that's so important for them. But really, when you get a little bit more secure in yourself, which you are, you now can really see an end game in mind and give yourself some paths to exit. It's hard to see that early on because you can barely see tomorrow. You're just getting through the bucket of mud. But if you can do that and you think in multiple terms, so what you've been able to do is what I call the bucket phase, and that you've got multiple buckets happening in your life.
Yeah.
And so you're working them. Boy, if you can think like that, that's great. But a lot of people can't do that. They're just in a mono bucket, one bucket, and driving that, and they need a little bit more time in their life to think outside that box, and they can do that. Real estate, that you've done some real estate, that's a great thing. That's a second bucket. A third business is another bucket. These are great things to do as an entrepreneur, but you have to have the time from your business to think like that, because you might be working 20 hours a day to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that. So I've done the 20 hours. I think I was in a startup mode a while ago. So instead of starting a business, I think of buying business. I'm buying businesses at the moment who are already profitable, and then building them on further to have the exit strategy, to do the exit strategy in 5 to 10 years. And I think that's because I've gone in with the end in mind. I'm able to do that quite successfully, and hopefully I will. Well, it's going to happen successfully. The time factor I'm putting in the universe, 5 to 10 years. We'll see what happens. Earliest 5, latest 10. But all the other businesses I know where I'm going with them, and I've already put in plan in motion to, okay, this can work for them as a side business, whatever else. And I'm trying to teach my children, you can think outside the box, you can think beyond it, and everything in my life. I mean, I've gone from a lawyer, who banking and finance lawyer, to when I was working as an intuitive life coach, doing all the woo-woo stuff. And I did energy clearing and energy medicine. I mean, now it's become a bit more fashionable. When I started out back in 2017 or 18, it wasn't, people didn't know what the word money mindset was, or all of that stuff was. Now it's very, very open and common. People talk about it. But again, lawyer doing that, it's very difficult. And now from there, from being an online coach, whatever, to now going to brick and mortar business and doing steel manufacturing, it's again a complete different kettle of fish. So I do different things, and this is what I'm teaching my children. However, I don't expect them to follow my suit. I don't know if they want to be entrepreneurs. And why should I put the burden of them being an entrepreneur on top of them? The reason why I can give them property, because that's an easy business to handle. And if they want to be lawyers, have a law firm for them. But my businesses, I think far too many individuals say, well, I've built this business up for the last 30 years. You need to run it. Why? That's an unnecessary burden on your children. They need to make their own choices. They need to make their own craze. And they need to be happy doing it. It may be that both my children don't want to be entrepreneurs. Why would I put the burden of my businesses on them if they don't want to be entrepreneurs?
You wouldn't. It's not for them. And by the way, most people, because most of my clients are business owners, we advise that in most cases, you should not hand the business down to your children, because your children don't want to do what you did when you were building it. They don't want to clean the garbage can out and work weekends and sometimes all night long. They just want the benefits that they see in your lifestyle now.
Yeah.
So give them that lifestyle if that's what you want to do. Give them the money and the lifestyle, and then they can figure out what to do with the money themselves.
100%, 100%. So can you do a quick recap of all three phases of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, phase one is really the startup mode. I'm getting it together. I've got a little bit of a dream. I've got a little bit of a vision. Maybe I'm doing this by the seat of my pants from cash. I got to secure some cash flow, but I've always had a dream of starting something, even if I'm starting it part-time, to turn it into something full-time. I want to create something out of nothing.
Okay.
That's a really great phase one and all the challenges that go with that. Phase two is I've got something now. Now I want to create sustainability, give it legs. It's going to last 10, 20 years, whatever I want it to do. It's going to grow. I'm going to need more personnel, more financing, more plant, property, equipment, whatever the business is. But I've got even a bigger vision, and I'm making that happen. And phase three is, what's my wind down phase? What's the next phase of the business? And Gull, what's the next phase for me? Do I just want to call it a day and travel? Do I want to start something totally different? Do I want to become a book writer because I have a message I want to put out there? What's my phase in phase three? Which might be a new phase one and start something over again. But I want to have something. Otherwise, you're going to be 80 years old doing the same thing you did at 40. And if that's good for you, good for you. That wouldn't work for me, but that does work for some people.
Wonderful. Okay. So on that note, we're going to wrap it up. So Elliot, tell us, where can we find you on the internet? How can we connect with you?
Great. So email address is Elliot, ELLIOT, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. And the website is prosperityfinancialgroup.com. And you can go to my website and make an appointment with me any day of the week. Give me a call, whatever it is.
Fantastic. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the links that Elliot has just mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, then down below in the description section, we'll have all the links that Elliot just mentioned. Go check him out and see how he can help you build a better business. Thank you so much, Elliot, for being such an amazing guest and sharing all your insights with us. Thank you. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Great. Thanks for having me on, Gull.
And thank you for listening to me and Elliot today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time, this is Gull Kallen signing off. Take care and bye for now.